This is real.
Hey, hi, Shelley.
Former
How
President.
are you?
I'm wonderful, sir. I'm wonderful. Such an honor for me to be speaking to you right now. I first met you in the Oval Office when you had about 8 national talk radio hosts out there, but I was so nervous I didn't get to say anything to you. So I appreciate you coming on the show.
But that's not you. That's not you to be nervous.
Yes, it is.
It's great to be with you.
Yes, it is. Thank you so much for
Great.
joining. I want to start off.
Thank you.
I just interviewed my good friend. He's a friend of mine. We're on the opposite sides politically, but we're on, he's a very dear friend of mine, always been supportive of my show and my career. And his name is Killer Mike, the rapper. And I asked him, what question would you ask President Trump if you had a chance to ask him? And I wanted to start here because his answer, or this question that he wants to ask you, I thought was most fascinating. He would ask you, can you or will you expand the First Step Act, opportunity zones, to even look at rural areas, and also more funding for HBCUs?
So as you know, and it's a very good question, actually, as you know, all of those things I did. I got I call them the small colleges and universities that happen to be black. I got them funded that no other president did. They would come up to Washington every single year. They'd come up, and I got to know them. After 2-3 years, I said, why do you guys keep coming back? Why don't you just – and they said, because they never gave us funding beyond a year. I said, that's terrible. I said, here's the story. I'm going to get you funding beyond a year. I'm going to get you more than you're asking for. And those guys love me. Those people love me. Some women heads of the colleges and some men, and they were great, every one of them. And I said, the bad news is I won't see you again. I'll never see you again because I'm going to get you long-term financing where you don't have to come back. One of them said to me, they make us feel like beggars. We go back every single year to get money for the colleges and for the universities that happen to be black. And he said, every single year we're forced to go back. It's terrible. I said, because I said after 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? I didn't even realize it. And I got them what they wanted. And then in terms of long term, I got them more than they asked for. And they are big supporters of mine. So, that's one answer. As far as opportunity zones, I think it's the best Economic Development Act passed certainly for minorities, but maybe one of the best ever. I did that with Tim Scott of South Carolina, Senator Tim Scott, who's a great guy, actually, a fantastic guy. And he had that idea with a bunch of very smart people, and they came to see me, and we got it done. And it's one of the few things that really work, economic development, because most economic development plans for other presidents have been terrible. And this really, really worked. And I call it criminal justice reform. I got that done. No other president, Obama didn't get it done. Biden hasn't done anything with it. Nobody has. And nobody's really tried. I got something done that nobody could have done but me because they needed some conservative votes. And I remember a group of people come into my office and they were dying to get it done, and they couldn't get it done because they needed votes. And I had the votes, and I got it done. Nobody else would have been able to do that. So, Shelley, it was an honor to do it, but nobody has done. And I actually say I have been the best president for the black community since Abraham Lincoln, okay? And that's true, and everybody admits it. Because when you those three subjects that you mentioned, I also had the best economic development news for the black community of any president ever. We had the best numbers, the best employment numbers, the best job numbers, the best income, the best housing numbers, meaning housing ownership. No other president had numbers like I had.
So, but the question is, yes or no, would you expand those programs?
Yeah, well, I mean, we would do that. The colleges are funded, very well funded, but when they need extra money, we also know that they come in and they're going to, in that case, they're going to get it. And I would say in almost all those cases, they really do a good job. The opportunity zones, I would definitely expand that. We have it in certain areas, but I would definitely, because that has proven to be one of the biggest winners of all. And criminal justice reform is always under reform with me, but not with other presidents.
Understood. President Biden has had a conversation with Bibi Netanyahu and President Xi. If you were president right now and everything was the same on the ground, Israel, Gaza, Taiwan, all the same issues are on the ground, how would your conversation with those two presidents differ than current President Biden?
Well, first of all, with Bibi Netanyahu, it would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened. It was not going to take place. As you know, Iran supplies the money, and they give it to Hamas, they give it to Hezbollah, they give it to many different terror groups, 28 that they know of, and many. And under me, they were broke. Iran was broke. They didn't have the money. I said I put sanctions in. If you bought oil or anything from Iran, you couldn't do any business with the United States. China wasn't buying oil. Nobody was buying oil. They were out of money. They were out of cash, and they were out of giving any money to Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the known or unknown terror organizations. And now they're a rich country because Biden took everything off. He took the sanctions off. He put no restrictions on. And now they're a rich country, and they're going to soon have a nuclear weapon. And that's going to be a different negotiation. That's going to be bad news. And he should not let that happen. They should never let that happen. And I hope he's listening to your show, because he cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. And I had it worked out. If that election weren't rigged, I would have had that solved within 2 weeks after the election. We would have had to deal with Iran, just like we did the Abraham Accords, which were, a phenomenal thing. We would have had that worked out. As far as with President Xi is concerned, until COVID came, I had a very good relationship. We made a great trade deal with China, a phenomenal trade deal where they bought $50 billion a year of our products from our farmers and our manufacturers. Nobody ever made a deal like that. And that was done and great. When COVID came in, it was a whole different ballgame as far as I was concerned. That was a step too far. But we did a great job with that, and we did things that nobody thought could be done. But with China, I made a great trade deal. And what I want there is I want them to adhere to it, because you have to push them to adhere to it. But under that deal, they had to buy $50 billion worth of product, farmers product in particular, and also manufacturing.
You just spoke about Israel. You recently made a statement about Jewish people, Jewish Americans, and you talked about how they should be spoken to. How should they be spoken to vis-a-vis Israel?
Well, not how they should be spoken to. The October 7th situation was that raid or attack was a horrible thing,
Absolutely.
The likes of which hasn't been seen in many, many decades. Nobody's seen anything like that. And what happened, and what I say is, you have to get in, you have to finish it off, and then get back to normalcy. And you have to be tough and strong and smart and careful, and you have to get it finished off and get back to normalcy. But you do have to get it finished off. Look, that October 7th attack was a terrible thing, and now people are forgetting it. Most people, when you and I talk about October 7th, they don't even know what we're talking about anymore. They've forgotten already.
They've moved on.
But you have to get back, and you have to get it solved, and you have to get back to no more war. Get it solved, be tough, be smart, get it done, and get back to normal.
Well, I know our time is limited, so I'm kind of zipping through our questions here. To win in 2024, are you going to do anything differently from 2020, like encourage early voting and mail-in ballots or anything else? Are you going to speak differently in 2024 than you did in 2020?
Well, remember, in 2016 I won, and in 2020 I got millions of more votes than I did in 2016. That was a whole terrible election. That was a third world country election. That was a disgrace. But you have to remember that I got millions of more votes in 2020. It wasn't like I got less votes. Most presidents, when they run, they get less votes the second time. I got millions more. In fact, I got more votes than in the history of our country than any sitting president ever got. So, when you say talk, I guess I'll probably talk the same. I'll talk about the border, which is a disaster. The border is a disaster. And the people that are affected most, the black population, is affected more by the border than any other population. Then I would say followed by Hispanic. And I'd also say followed by the unions. The unions are going to be put out of business by all these people coming in. They're coming in, they're flooding our country. And by the way, they're coming from prisons and jails. They're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums, which is a step beyond. And they're terrorists and they're drug dealers, and they're just pouring into our country totally unvetted and totally unchecked. And the people that are taking the brunt of it, I don't know if you saw the last employment report, most of the people that were hired were migrants that came into our country illegally.
That it is,
now think of that.
It's crazy.
That's going to take a big toll on black people.
Absolutely.
It's a terrible thing that's happening.
And Democrats...
And it's all because of Biden, because he's an incompetent president. He's the worst president in the history of our country. He made Jimmy Carter look like a brilliant, by comparison, a brilliant president. But this is an incompetent man. What he's done to our country by allowing these people to come in, and what he's done to the black population, because these people are taking the jobs that black people would get, and they're also not getting increases because the people are coming in by the millions. I believe we have 15 million people here right now, and they're taking a black worker's job as sure as you're sitting or standing, wherever you may be.
Right. Speaking of immigration, speaking of the election and everything that went on in 2020, we have a situation here locally. The first vice chairman of the Georgia GOP, Brian Pritchard, has been found by an administrative judge to have voted illegally 9 times. There's a lot of activists, a lot of on-the-ground people spending their own money trying to get more election integrity laws here in Georgia, and they're fighting tooth and nail, and many of them want him to resign. He said on his show that if he gets a call from President Trump or President Trump tells him to resign, that's what he will do. Would you tell him what to do?
Well, I'll certainly look into it. I mean, you're telling me something locally that I have not heard about.
Gotcha.
But I will certainly look into that.
Okay.
Yes, I'll take a look at it.
Let's skip it. Let's move over then. Abortion. You recently talked about abortion and talking about its states' rights and people and everything you said. Do you think you'll ever get more specific? I like your answer, by the way. I don't want you to get more specific. I think your specific answer is what it is, states' rights, and leave it there. But would you ever get more specific?
Well, it is states' rights, but it's also showing that these are the people that are the radicals, the Democrats, because you ask them, would you do an abortion in the 8th month or the 9th month, or will you guarantee, because they have states that do this, that there will be no execution of a baby after the 9th month? You know, you have the governor of Virginia, the former governor of Virginia, the Democrat. He was out saying that after the 9th month, if you decide for the abortion or you decide you missed your time, but he said, if you have the baby, you put the baby down and then you sit with the mother and you make a determination. The baby is now born. That's called an execution. Now, what you do is you have to ask them, would you do abortion in the 7th or the 8th or the 9th month? Because nobody wants that to do, and they won't give you an answer. The Democrats will not give you an answer. If you sit down and ask them, you interview some of them and put them on the spot and say, what about in the 8th month? Would you agree that you won't do abortions in the 8th month or the 9th month? And the execution, I don't know, you can talk about it or not talk about it, but that's very much down on the record by the governor, the ex-governor, the former governor of Virginia, and others.
Right.
And others. But the question is, would you do it in the 8th or the 9th month? Nobody wants to see that. Nobody. Democrats don't want to see that either, but they won't give you an answer. So they're the radical ones when you think about it. No, when I was fighting this very hard, frankly, and everybody was for years. You know, it's been going on for 53 years. It's time to bring it to a close. But when I was fighting it, everybody fought it on the basis of states' rights, that it should go back to the states. And all legal scholars on both sides said this is not a federal issue. This is a state issue. And I got it back. I did something important. I got it back. And now the states are all making up their determinations. Some are conservative, some are less conservative, some are very, frankly, as they would say, liberal or progressive. But the states are going through it. And IVF was another problem. I said, nope, we help people with the IVF. We're going to help people with fertilization. Women want to have babies, and we're going to help the women have babies. And that's a very strong, going to be a platform item in the Republican Party. So we're helping them. The Democrats weren't telling you that, but we're helping them on IVF. And having to do with the abortion, we had a great victory because we took something out of the federal government and brought it into the states, and that's where it's getting all sorted out right now. Every legal scholar on both sides wanted that to happen.
Absolutely.
And that was always the purpose of terminating.
We in late 2020, I went to the Black Voices for Trump event here in Georgia. I was very proud of Harrison.
Right.
I'm going to get to a question about Harrison and what he's going through. But you put forth a Black economic plan. Will you be announcing a similar or same plan or something again during this election? And would you meet with people like Ice Cube to promote the plan?
Sure, I would, and I have. And I have tremendous support. You know, we have tremendous Black support, and more.
I'm
than
one of
I
them.
think. Well, that I know, and by the way, that's why I'm talking to you. To be honest with you, I know that. I very much appreciate it. I really do, and you're a very respected voice. I have to say that. But you know, and your area. I assume you're in Atlanta, right?
Yes,
Generally,
sir. Metro Atlanta.
In Atlanta. Because that's an area that really needs help. When you look at what's going on, and it really needs so much help. It's really diving. It's such an incredible area, but it really does. And more than anyone else is Black people have to be protected. The crime, you look at what's going on and with the crime and everything else, that has to be a big part of it. But we'll work on economic development programs, which is something I'm very good at. Opportunity zones will be expanded, and we'll be working very hard with a lot of the different leaders. And if you have people that you'd want me to see, like that have ideas and some good ideas, including yourself, I'd absolutely meet.
My man, my brother. The court cases are political. We all know this, right? But what are your thoughts?
100%.
100%. But what are your thoughts with Fonnie Willis here in Atlanta, and then also the appellate court judge in New York turning down your appeal in New York? But what are your thoughts about those two cases specifically?
Well, the appeal was just to have the trial thrown out because it's a zero trial. It's a disgrace that it's being brought by the Biden administration to try and damage the opponent. Every one of these cases is involved. Fonnie Willis, Wade, was in Washington for 8 hours a day for numerous days working with the DOJ. This wasn't done by them. This is done by Biden and his people. And probably not Biden as much as his people, because I don't think Biden knows what the hell's happening, to be honest with you. I don't think he has any clue.
I don't think we all agree on that.
Well, it's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. You watch, he can't find his way off a stage, and then he's working on sophisticated lawsuits. But you know what? This is all being done. It's called lawfare. It's called weaponization, and there's never been anything like it. Every single case I'm involved with is involved with and started with, or at least worked with the Biden administration. And this is to try and win an election. Never happened before. You know, it's happened a lot, Shelley. It's happened a lot in terms of other nations, but they're third world nations.
Absolutely.
It's nothing like this has ever happened. And the good news is my poll numbers are the highest I've ever had. The people get it. You know, when I went to Atlanta and they did that mugshot, the street was lined with people, many of them Black people. I would say most of them, because the area where I was going was predominantly Black. And it was a beautiful thing. The love that they showed me. When I was going to think of it, I'm going to get a mugshot.
Right.
On
Why do you think
rigged trial?
Why do you think that was?
Stupid trial that should never be brought, and they understood it. They understood it so well. I think, and you know, you've read the same stories. A lot of them understood it from the standpoint, said the same thing happened to me and my family. You know, in a different way. Right. But they understood it better than anybody else. And the street was lined with people, and many of those people were Black. And it was, in many ways, it was a beautiful thing to see.
So speaking on that, because I'm a New Yorker, right? And right. I grew up at a time where your book, The Art of,
The Art of the Deal.
The Art of the Deal. Thank you, sir.
The Art of the Deal.
Yeah, the Art of the Deal. I'm nervous. Yeah. I'm sorry. The Art of the Deal. Many of us. Yeah, many
you
of us.
Don't sound nervous.
Many of us carried that around, and so being from New York, being from Harlem, New York, we saw you as a guy that, hey, if he can do it, I can do it. It's just plan and work hard and everything. During that time, we had the Wilding incident, we had the Central Park 5 incident and everything. And what I find interesting is one of the attacks that I always hear against you, which I don't understand, is it's always about it's all your fault, but no one blames the Democrat judge, the Democrat DA, the Democrat, a jury filled with Democrats and to judge them. But with their exoneration, do you say anything to them, or do you see this as the same persecution of them it's the same persecution of you now, just a corrupt legal system?
Well, it could be a corrupt system from that standpoint. I mean, that was a long time ago. Nobody really knew the facts, but you had a mayor, Bloomberg, who stuck with it. He said they were guilty long afterwards. You also had them admit they were guilty. I mean, that was the problem that they had. Now, that's part of the system, perhaps too. But as you know, they admitted that they admitted to guilt. And part of what happened, if you look at it and you look at the whole history of it, that was a big setback for them from the standpoint they admitted, and then they had to get out of that.
Right.
But, when they walked in or when they came in, they admitted. So I wasn't overly involved, other than I saw that they admitted that they were guilty, and a lot of people looked at that as not being a very good thing for them, not being a very good thing for them to do. But they looked at it, and they did that from a very strong perspective. But Bloomberg was the mayor, and Bloomberg was very, very strong on the fact that they were guilty for a long time. I think for a long time afterwards, too.
Right, and no one's called him any names.
I don't think anybody calls him any names.
That's what I'm saying. No one has.
But he was very. I think you agree with me. He was there long after that case. He was saying they were guilty.
Yep.
And so, people would listen to that. It's that whole thing was such a mess. It was such a horrible thing. It was such a terrible time, actually. It was a very bad time.
In many ways, crime is returning to that time in New York. When you win, and very strong, and when you win in November, what can you do to lower crime in the cities as a president? What kind of thoughts do you have around lowering crime, like in New York and L.A. and Oakland and places like that?
Right. Well, every city, and it's every Democrat-run city. If you really look at it, Shelley, it's every Democrat-run city. Crime is through the roof like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it before. And you have to, when they talk about defund the police, I have so many friends that are involved, so many black friends where they know this issue better than anybody, and they want the police to have more authority. The ones that really are, again, being affected by this more than anyone else are black people, Hispanic people. But very interestingly, you have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime. And they're coming in, and as I said before, they're coming in from prisons, and they're coming in from mental institutions, and they're causing tremendous crime, and they're causing crime against black people. And the whole thing is a mess. It's like an explosion waiting to happen. And it's very unfair to blacks and Hispanics and other people that have been in this country and that are looking for jobs, and they can't get jobs now. And on top of it, this new category of crime is massive because a lot of them are coming out of jails and all. And I say it all the time, jails and mental institutions, big percentages, and they're emptying out. And Venezuela just announced that their crime rate is down 67% this year. And the reason is because they took all their gangs out of the streets of Venezuela, Caracas. They took all their gangs out of the street, and they brought those gangs into the United States. And we now have them. Congratulations, Shelley. This is a beauty, right?
Right.
But think of it. They're down 67% in 1 year because they have all their gangs. They have rough gangs, and they put those rough gangs into the United States. And you know what? They'll be down next year, too. They'll end up having no crime. They'll take every one of their criminals and put them in the United States. And our country, run by very stupid people, accepts this.
You coined a phrase years ago, fake news, and many people in this country, we heard that, we understood what you meant. It has gotten like 2016, leading into 2016, 2016 to 2020, they showed their hands, but now it's almost like they don't care that we see that they're fake and they're just attacking Republicans generally and you specifically. How do we combat that? And then now I guess my question to you now is on behalf of Georgia GOP members and the voters in Georgia that are Republican that are going to vote Republican and for you. How do we combat the media narratives that are generated against you?
Well, first of all, we're way up in the polls over the Democrats. You know, if you're looking at the polls, and certainly me over Biden by a lot. I've seen some 12 points up. That's a lot. And, you know, we questioned that whole election last time. I have so many facts. It's horrible what took place in the election. That was a horrible, horrible time for this country, what took place in 2020. But we're way up in the polls over Biden. You almost say who wouldn't be, but it's, you know, just one of those things. And part of it is what's happening at the border. It's the migrants pouring in, and you're having it all over Atlanta. I know, and all over your state, by the way. But you're having all over. And remember, again, I say it, they're taking the jobs of black people. They're taking the jobs of black, and they're taking the jobs of Hispanic people, and at a level that nobody's ever seen before. They're actually taking the most jobs now. If you look at the jobs reports, the jobs are going to migrants more than they are to African Americans or Hispanic Americans. It's crazy what's happening.
We here in Georgia, I'm also very good friends with our governor, Governor Kemp, and I know you guys have bumped heads. But going into this election, do you think we can see the both of you campaigning together for president here in Georgia? Have you guys spoken at all?
Well, I think it's important that we do, because I think it's important for both of us. I think it's very important that the Republicans win this upcoming election. I think it's going to be the most important election by far. It's going to be the most important election in the history of our country. I think it's going to be one of the most important days, November 5th. I think it's going to be one of the most important days in the history of our country. I absolutely feel that. And winning Georgia is very, very important. And we're leading by a lot. I helped him get elected. He knows that. Very much helped him, as you know, probably better than most. And I think he respects that. And I hope we're going to be able to get along.
My man, it's awesome. That's awesome. I hope you guys can too. Last question. I've kept you longer than I was scheduled for, so I appreciate your time so very much.
It's okay.
But I've got to ask this fun question. Since you're going to be in Georgia, this week, are you going to stop by the Masters at all?
Oh, that's a great idea. Nobody even suggested that. Wow, I'm going to think about that one. That would be great.
Yeah,
that's
Tigers.
Right. You have the
Tigers
Masters this week.
Yeah, Tigers playing.
Are you a golfer?
I play at it. But I tell you, I would love. I tell you, being in the Oval Office with you was a dream come true. I mean, just to be around that Resolute desk with a person that I love and admire and voted for twice, and then to interview you now is things. So if I ever were to get around a Mar-a-Lago golf course, I think I'd just die afterwards and go to heaven. Go meet my mom.
Well, you let me know. You're a terrific guy, by the way. You let me know. Just do that. I'll be working pretty hard when I'm in Georgia. I tell you, I'd love to go over and watch the
should go down to Tigers
there. You
there.
let me know when you're in Florida, or you let me know when I'm in Georgia, and I'd love to say hello to you. I would absolutely love it. You're a terrific guy.
You're a very good president. You're the greatest president I think ever. You've got to win in November. We've got a lot riding on it, the entire country and the future of this country. So whatever you need, we are here for you on the Shelley Wynter Show. And God bless you, and God bless Melania, and God bless Barron. God bless your entire family, sir.
Shelley, you're really something special, and thank you very much. And say hello to all your viewers and your listeners, and I will see you soon. I definitely want to meet you. So
yes, sir.
Say hello to everybody. We'll meet again, okay?
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you. Thanks, Shelley. Bye.